The following program is underwritten by the generous support of Associates of Glens Falls and Loomis and Lipan Insurance. Since 1852, they have been assisting both businesses and individuals across the country secure the most comprehensive insurance products available. Associates of Glens Falls is proud to partner with Central Insurance Companies. Public affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's Restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable, home-like setting where everyone is welcomed. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Most cybersecurity firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
Okay. All right, welcome everybody. It's the Town of Queensbury regular town board meeting tonight. It is July 26, 2021. The time is 7:04 p.m. Would you please all rise and join Councilman Anthony Medevere in saying the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we begin the regular agenda, we have a discussion item. It's going to be a public and town board discussion in regards to the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, or MRTA, which was adopted March 2021. So, some of the things that we're going to discuss are: should the town opt out of retail dispensation and on-site consumption? I say and because each requires a license. All right, so if we don't opt out, we're automatically opted in. You're also allowed, if you stay opted in, to adopt practical and reasonable local laws that would regulate the dispensation and consumption in a time, place, or manner way. And so we'll look at that. The Association of Towns, New York State Association of Towns, often has very good and concise material on the topics at hand. And they have one that you can visit and download, a Town Official's Official Guide to Cannabis. The Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, a summary for town governments. So it says that you can opt out. And for one town, that might be good. For another town, the allure of job creation and tax revenue may outweigh any ancillary concerns like law enforcement, traffic, code enforcement, security concerns. You could have those as well. The state structure on regulating this is involved. You have the Cannabis Control Board, and that will consist of 5 individuals. The chairperson is an appointee of the governor with the advice and consent of the Senate. And then it goes on who the other appointees are. But among other things, this board is also responsible for drafting various regulations, rules, and an annual report on the effectiveness of MARTA, MRTA. including information how many licenses, permits, and registrations were approved and in what regions of the state and so forth. Then you have the Office of Cannabis Management. So in addition to the board, the Cannabis Control Board, you have the Office of Cannabis Management. Their responsibilities include, but are not limited to, any duties delegated by the board, maintaining records, inspecting premises where cannabis is manufactured, sold, cultivated, processed, or distributed, and generally advising and assisting the board. And so when I say the board, I'm talking about the Cannabis Control Board. So, they will make registration, license, permit application determinations after receiving recommendation. That's what the board would do. Then, in addition to the other two entities I just mentioned, will be the Chief Equity Officer, which their job, among others, is a public education program assisting communities that have been disproportionately impacted by cannabis enforcement and the licensing process and so forth. And then finally, you have the State Cannabis Advisory Board. It's a 13 voting member state cannabis advisory board. The governor has 7 appointments on that board, and the heads of the Assembly and Senate each have 3, and it goes on. They will collaborate with the other boards to make recommendations. Okay. I said it was involved. Now you have medical cannabis, and then you have recreational or adult use cannabis. Medical cannabis is already allowed and very strongly controlled by the state. And yes, I'm going to explain in probably a little bit. You could theoretically receive licensing for both, but you have to receive both licenses, medical and recreational. They're estimating that this would bring in about $350 million annually and create 30 to 60,000 jobs. It will decriminalize the possession of less than 3 ounces of marijuana for adults 21 and older. So registered organizations may also hold adult use licenses, meaning that at the same place they'll be able to distribute medical cannabis and sell recreation cannabis if it has both licenses. I think I was a little ahead of myself. All right, adult use cannabis licensing. So you have steps. And Article 4 of the Cannabis Law covers adult use cannabis, and it regulates each step in the process from growing to processing to distributing to ultimately consumer sales. Each step has its own separate license, and there are, in fact, 10 different types of licenses under Article 4. You have adult use cultivator, adult use processor, adult use cooperative, adult use distributor, retail dispensary, micro business delivery, nursery, on-site consumption, and registered organization, adult use cultivator, processor, distributor, retail dispensary licenses. Now this guide and our discussion today will focus on retail dispensary and on-site consumption licenses. Because those are 2 in which towns have authority over. And then it talks about applying for the license. It talks about retail dispensary. And it says that, like I said, there's on-site consumption. There's dispensation and consumption. Each requires a separate license. Can a facility have both? Again, the answer is yes. but you have to obtain licenses for both. And so when you go before the board will take additional consideration into account to where you're going to be selling and consuming. You are allowed to adopt time, place, and manner restrictions that are reasonable. For example, consumption cannot be within 500 feet of a school. I mean, you may think that's liberal, and you may think 1,000 feet might be more appropriate. Well, those are the kinds of things we want to hear if you're inclined to encourage the town to stay opted in. An applicant for an adult use retail dispensary license, registered organization, adult use cultivator, processor, distributed retail dispensary license, or an on-site consumption license must notify the municipality of its intention to file an application within 270 days and 30 days before it plans on filing. And the board will create a standardized form, and it will include some of the following information. I'm not going to go through that. All right, opting out. Towns or municipalities can opt out. Opting out is subject to a permissive referendum. If the town decides to opt out, residents can challenge that town board decision. They can pass a petition, and if they lawfully obtain a certain number of signatures in a lawfully put together petition, they can force a vote on the topic. All right, that's only if the town opts out. The public can force the town to opt in. These decisions have to be decided, not the referendum though, but the town board's decision has to be decided by December 31st, 2021. And so the town can only opt out of retail dispensary and on-site consumption and nothing else. So we're holding public hearings and a community roundtable, if you will, to get a sense of what the community wants. So another consideration is the revenue. If the town opts out, it gets zero revenue. Now, if it opts in, okay, it is entitled to some of that revenue. There's going to be a 9% tax that will go to the state, and an additional 4% tax that will be distributed on a quarterly basis as follows. From the 4%, 25% will stay with the county, automatic. The remaining 75% will be distributed between the towns, cities, and villages within the county in proportion to the amount of sales that take place within their jurisdiction. So we are entitled to, 9 and 4, 13%. 1% would go to the county. 3%, the way I'm reading it, would be distributed to those towns, villages, cities within the county that have decided to stay opted in. Remember, if you opt out, you get zero. And then it will be distributed proportionally based on the amount of sales that take place within your municipality. So, for example, if Queensbury does 80% of the sales, 80% of that 3% will go to Queensbury. If 80% of goes to Lake George, does 80% of the business amount of sales, then they would get 80%. That's the way I'm reading it. I'm reading it the way it's quoted. Okay. They have police-related issues. Under MARTA, a person 21 or older can possess, display, transport, or obtain up to 3 ounces of cannabis or 24 grams of concentrated cannabis. Additionally, a person may lawfully possess 5 pounds of cannabis in a personal residence or on the grounds of another person's residence. In other words, don't travel with 5 pounds of cannabis. Keep that amount at home and stick to 3 ounces. That's what it said. Peace and police officers may inspect all licensed and permitted premises and all records of licensed operators. Inspections cannot interrupt ordinary business or compromise the licensee's safety or security procedures. And inspections would include, but not limited to, ensuring the licensee or permittee is compliant with the New York State cannabis law and regulations and other applicable state and local building codes, fire, health, safety, and other applicable regulations. Reasonable suspicion is one that they're still working on, I understand. And that the cannabis odor or possession or money placed near cannabis can be the basis, either on its own or in combination with other factors, for believing that a crime has been committed. However, the prohibition against using the odor of burnt cannabis as the basis for reasonable suspicion does not apply when an officer is investigating whether a person is driving while impaired. But even if someone is pulled over and there is a smell of burnt cannabis, the smell does not provide probable cause to search any area of the vehicle that is not readily accessible to the driver and not reasonably likely to contain evidence relevant to the driver's condition. Then they have a section on public smoking and consumption. With respect to smoking and vaping, cannabis is treated the same as tobacco. However, one exception, cars. They are the exception where tobacco can be smoked or vaped, but not cannabis. And then it goes on to the other details of law. Has Appendix A, what you might use as a opting out and what you need to fill in and so forth if you decide to opt out. Okay. That's like an overview of the situation. Now we're wondering if anybody has any thoughts, opinions they'd like to share with the town board. Anybody, town board members, anybody like to speak first before I open it to the public?
Just a couple of things, John, that are in the document. There's preclusions against selling anywhere near a school or a church. Those are part of the provisions in there as well. And there's the cost of licenses. The estimate is going to be in excess of $200,000 to get a license. So at least from my point of view, I don't see these places opening up on every corner in Queensbury because the amount of investment it's going to take to purchase a license. So if we go forward with this, it would be limited licenses issued just because of the costs.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Town board at this time? You're welcome to chime in later. Any member of the public who wish to speak to the topic at hand, which is, do we opt out or do we do nothing and opt in? Do we apply some restrictions if we stay opted in? What kind of restrictions would you like to see? Nobody present? Well, you're just here to see what everybody else had to say.
The only person on Zoom is Mark Bean.
Yeah, the only person on Zoom is Mark Bean. I think he's just monitoring the town. But give us any updates. House on Jenkinsville, I understand he doesn't have any yet. But back to cannabis. I thought there might be a lively discussion on the matter. All right. So I'm assuming if people felt strongly about opting out, they would want us to opt out. So I'll express my opinion. I think that, we should not opt out. I think there's a revenue stream. I think that if you opt out like Watertown has, all the towns around you are going to gain the advantages and you're going to receive none of those. We are allowed to place restrictions. I'm more conservative, and I would like to see something like 1,000 feet from a school, as opposed to their suggested 500 feet. So those are things we're allowed to consider. And anything else that the public says, well, I don't think it's a good idea for one of these to be located near my neighborhood. All right, then maybe we have to establish what zones we would allow them in to keep them out of residential neighborhoods. So you have commercial intensive, commercial moderate.
Agreed.
Generally, they're somewhat isolated. Along Route 9, along Quaker Road. So, I'll start off the conversation with you. And this is, if you change your mind, you do want to speak up. I'll give you the opportunity. If something we say triggers something you like or don't like, and you want to reinforce or say you don't like it, I'm going to give you the opportunity.
We did have a workshop on it. I know that day Tony and I stayed, and I think we expressed our opinions that we were for having it and not opting out for the reasons that you just stated as well. That if we don't do it in Queensbury, it will be done someplace else around us, and we will lose out on whatever potential revenue that there could be made from this.
Okay.
I wasn't at the workshop, but I'm inclined to support, staying on the path of integrating it in a way that is reasonable and responsible. My things about it are ruthless enforcement for under 21. It's scary when I hear about how teenager brains work and develop. I'm very concerned about that. So that would be something that I think we collectively need to figure out how to do as good as we can. Unfortunately, the law says you can grow, I think, 6 plants in your backyard, or 12 plants if there's more than one adult. So there's going to be some challenge to ruthless enforcement, but I would urge people to take that on, and I intend to be a huge advocate for ruthless enforcement to keep it away from teenagers who we don't know what's going to happen in terms of the longer term effects. Driving under the influence is another big issue. I think it's as most of you know, Colorado's been recreational since 2012. So they have 7 or 8 years experience as they implement it. I don't think it's a huge problem, but that technology is going to continue to advance, and I think we want to support making sure that folks are not driving under the influence or boating under the influence or operating four-wheel drive, motorcycles under the influence. I think New York is actually not in the lead in this regard, right? So California Prop 215 in 96 legalized medical marijuana on a referendum. And as I mentioned, Colorado was the first in 2012 to do the recreational marijuana. In 2014, Alaska, DC, and Oregon also did recreational. I think there's now 20 on its way to 20. So we're not blazing any new trails here. We just need to keep track of what's best practice and keep our eyes on the ball, so to speak. I believe the feds, there's some legislation to make it, decriminalize it at the federal level as well. That's going to have some challenges with regard to interstate commerce and all that good stuff. Not really germane to us right now, other than figure out what's next with commercial driving, snowplows at the middle of the night with employees and how we deal with that. But that's an issue that I think we can manage. So absent strong, vocal opt-out from the constituency, I'm good with not opt.
Okay, any other town board wish to speak to this matter at this time?
I'll just address the point you just made about, trucks and transportation and working. It's the same as alcohol. You can't be drinking on the job. You can't be smoking on the job. It's that simple. And it won't be tolerated by this town anyway. I did actually, just before we came here, I just read a story on it. It's if your employer says no, then that's it. Can't be using it. Can't be showing up drinking. Same thing. So, as far as that, we're concerned there. I don't think it will be an issue. There's zero tolerance for it. So,
well, the difference between alcohol, at least in my understanding, and again, I'm not a doctor, is that how do you test for that? So,
and that's the problem.
In alcohol, for flying, it's nothing within 8 hours and then a very low tolerance. Whereas one of the dilemmas is and one of the reasons I think we want to regulate it is so that we can set some of those and collect that data and make sure that somebody who was away on a vacation comes back to work a week later and isn't eating gummies on the job, but how to balance that will be a challenge.
And I read a lot of statistics on does the use of marijuana contribute to more automobile accidents and everything. It was very interesting to read because they really don't know. Because every time somebody is involved in accident and they might have marijuana in their system, they also have alcohol in their system. So they just cannot, determine what that factor was that caused an accident. And never thought of it that way, but, it's one of those things. You may not have used it today or this week, but it's still in your system for some 30 some odd days. So there's no way to determine if it's a factor. So it's interesting to research it.
About driving.
I'm sorry?
I think that if we have a town employee and a CDL license is required for their job, we have zero tolerance.
Zero tolerance.
For
Absolutely.
CDL drivers. And I think David's here, isn't he? Yes. Highway Superintendent David Dole's here. David, isn't the CDLs have a federal string? Yeah. So in the federal government, marijuana, cannabis is still illegal. So from the federal government down to the local government, the CDL and those people that are using the CDL and they are town employees, zero tolerance.
That is correct.
Yep.
Yeah, but the feds are gonna decriminalize it, John. I mean, this CDL is the same as piloting, right? I mean, commercial pilots, but to the point of we have to adopt best practices and keep our eye on the ball. So because there's going to be lawsuits that say, why are you punishing me with completely legal? I mean, it's like saying you can't drink. That's not fair, right? So there's going to be some interactions, especially when the feds decriminalize.
There's a level of responsibility that comes here on the part of everybody. I mean, just the way it is with alcohol right now. You have to have a level of responsibility to know when you can't use this. And unfortunately, not everybody is responsible, but that's the part that we have to deal with.
Well, there's certain employers that, regardless of the law, won't tolerate it, and they still do random drug testing at any time. And if you fail, you lose your job.
Right.
Period. So that's your decision you have to make.
Yeah, we had discussed this at the workshop, and I just did a quick check. Right now, the feds are looking at decriminalizing the use, but in the Department of Transportation, CDLs and use of marijuana is prohibited. So, and I don't see that changing. So, I think, like you said, zero tolerance. And I'll go forward with that. I would suggest, and I'm go on record as with my peers that I would support going forward with not opting out. I think it's for the reasons we stated. And I'm also going to throw this out that if we do not opt out, I think making it a public decision sooner is in the best interest of our retailers or our business people that might want to fight for one of those licenses. So as we talked about at that workshop, if we're going to make the decision, making it sooner allows our people, whoever our residents are, who want to apply for licenses, to be able to say, I'm in a jurisdiction that has not opted out. So,
well, along with that thought, if we're going to restrict it to certain zones, and we're going to restrict distancing, and we may have other restrictions to the dispensary aspect or the use aspect, then it would behoove us to get some of those out of the way sooner than later so that people know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there going to be any more guidance from the Association of Towns to municipalities on crafting some of these guidelines?
I haven't heard of any. It's a good idea, George. It'd be nice if they did and see what other towns are doing.
Because we don't have to do anything to opt out.
No, we don't have to do anything at all, and the restrictions we can impose at any time.
Right.
It's the opting out you have to do by December 31st of this year, if you're going to opt out.
But if people are looking to establish or pursue getting licenses, we need to have some of those guidelines in place, because if we want to have those types of establishments in a certain zone, we have to figure that out now.
So wouldn't we, in my mind, I would put it similar as we've already discussed. If you can have a liquor store or tobacco shop, then we probably can't make too many more restrictions, or we could try, but it probably won't hold up. So I think we have some of that sort of already in our zoning. We'll have to review it, but to me, it's in Colorado. It's very. I have a son in Colorado, and I've lived there, and it's very similar to where you can allow liquor stores, if you will. And so I think that again, there's going to be some best practices that are already out there.
All right. Let's suggest a workshop and bring Craig Brown and the zoning folks and give the public another chance. But like Greg explained to the members, this is what our current zoning says, what you can do here, what you do that. I had made the assumption that they wouldn't be allowed to open up in residential because it's residential and it's not open for business. If we need to be clearer, and he could tell us if we need to be clear, we put that in, and if we want a separate committee or whatever, I'll work on that. But I think just hearing what our, as Harrison just said, hearing what our zoning would currently allow and what the preclusions, if you will.
No, I think that's a good discussion item. We'll put that on. I think I'm looking at maybe August 30th for the next workshop. So I'll put that on.
Okay, Greg or someone from his office.
Yeah, it's Monday and August. Okay, yeah, good suggestion. All right.
Yeah, John, just someone who's in favor of it.
Okay.
I think that's it.
So we received a letter from Neil Iverson. And dear Mr. Stroud, I would like to go on record as being in favor of the town of Queensbury approving retail sales of marijuana and related products in the town. It is long past time to repudiate the lies and harm done by Harry Anslinger back in the 30s when he vilified marijuana use to save his job once prohibition was rescinded. We now need to fully rescind the prohibition of legal, responsible marijuana use. Thank you, Neil Iverson. Thank you. All right. Anybody else, after listening to the conversation of the town board, have any thoughts that you wish to share with us? If you do, just indicate your interest in doing so, and I'll have you come up. And there's Tim. There's nobody on the. Even though Zoom isn't expected anymore, mandatory anymore, I decided I'd do it to open up the discussion so that anybody in the town could participate. All right. I wondered if we were inclined to opt out, if we would have more interest in it. Okay. All right. Well, seeing none, we'll keep this conversation open, of course. You're always welcome to speak to any town issue. This is one, and you're always welcome to speak to us about this. So for now, there doesn't appear to be any interest, so we'll move on. The next item on the agenda requires us going into the Queensbury Board of Health because it's asking for a sewage disposal variance. So we'll need a motion to move into the Queensbury Board of Health. So moved by Councilperson Ferone, seconded by Councilperson McNulty. All those in favor of moving into the Queensbury Board of Health, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. We're now into the Queensbury Board of Health. Karen, would you read to the public the only item we have to deal with today?
Sure, it's a public hearing, sewage disposal variance application of Harley and Tia Griffiths.
Okay. And they're only asking for a variance from the size of their holding tank system. For their residence, which is 6 bedrooms, current town law says 5,000. They already have 4,000 installed, probably at a time where it didn't require 4,000. The residence we're talking about is 298 Cleverdale Road. They all have the bells and whistles required of holding tanks. The only variance they're asking for is to have 1,000 gallons smaller, which they currently have. So they're just asking us to approve what they currently have and is in the ground. All right, there will be a public hearing on this tonight. But before I open the public hearing, any town board member thoughts on this application? All right, seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. Any member of the public wish to approve Harley and Tia Griffiths' application for sanitary sewage disposal variance, as I described, for a residence on 298 Cleverdale Road? Yes, sir. Please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Eric Sandblum from SRA Engineers. I am an engineer representing the applicants, and I'm just here to answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Eric? And that's Sandblum, Sandblom.
That is correct.
Okay, Karen? And you're a PE?
Correct.
So you've assessed the situation. So any questions for the Kent's agent?
I would assume that the existing tank is all set up with the appropriate alarms and everything gets phone and all of that is shut off.
We met with Dave Patton. He's inspected the system himself. So he does have, for instance, a solenoid valve to shut off the water.
Right.
The way it's 2 tanks at 2,000, and the way they have it set up, when one tank fills, that's 50% capacity, one alarm goes off, and that's when they call up the septic hauler to come. So they have that additional 2,000 gallons of reserve while they wait for the septic hauler to come. And then if the second tank fills, that triggers another flow switch which will shut off the water. Yeah. So there's pretty fail safe as far as making sure there's no discharges.
Okay. And it's a seasonal home.
Correct.
How old is it?
The house is quite old.
No, the septic.
The septic system. I'm Harley Griffiths. My wife, yeah, so you're Tia Griffiths. And we have
couple of people here can answer any questions. One is the engineer on the technical side. The other is my wife and her brother, whose parents and the grandparents.
So how old is the holding house?
30 years. 2000.
You didn't hear that it was 30 years old. 30 years.
The house is well over.
What's the expected life of a holding?
All right, Harley, would you please, I just want to make sure we get this in the recording.
So, Mr. Eric, what's the expected life of a holding tank?
These are concrete holding tanks with no loads on them whatsoever. I've seen them last 50 to 60 years. I know that I can't provide a guarantee of that, but it is not uncommon for them to last that long.
And is there a way to check to make sure they're not leaking somewhere else?
Well, certainly. I think just a simple visual inspection at the time that they're being pumped is a time that can be done quite easily.
We also have to, I think it's fair to say, the property was just transferred from my mother-in-law, my wife's mother, to my wife. And apparently that triggers, when the deed changes, that triggers an inspection. So we are prepared for, in talking to Dave Patton in particular, an inspection of the septic and the flow to make sure everything's operating properly. And that's where Eric comes in.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? So is the variance required before the inspection, just as part of the inspection process?
Well, I think that the inspection triggered the deficiency and therefore the need for variance.
To give you, some use of the house is a seasonal summer only. It's never rented. It's been in the family for 100 years. My wife and I are now beginning to spend more time in it. My mother-in-law died about 18 months ago, and she was the only person in there for the last 30 years. Her husband died before that. I'm still working, so I'm not retired. I'm not even there all the time myself. In fairness, we have 4 adult children. They come, we'll say, holiday weekends, 4th of July, Labor Day, that kind of thing. So it's a fairly underused property, 6 months of the year.
Okay. No further questions from the applicant or the agent?
Thank you.
Any member of the public who wish to speak to this application? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing.
There were, I think, a letter or two that was sent in.
I didn't receive.
I didn't see it.
From neighbors supporting them.
I didn't see them. In any event,
we have one that we printed out.
If it can be admitted at this time, we have one letter of the next door neighbor supporting the variance.
yeah, well, if you want to read it into the record, Mr. Sam Bloom.
July 26, 2021. To whom it may concern, the Freihoffer Griffiths family have been stellar neighbors for over 80 plus years to the Frederick Feeney family at Cleverdale. The families have lived next door to each other through 3 generations, with both families exhibiting the best interests of Lake George by their daily actions. The Freihoffer Griffiths family does not rent out their home. The property is always well cared for, well maintained, and the 2 holding tanks evacuated on a regular basis as meters notify them of the need. For most of the summer seasonal home, the home is inhabited by 2 to 4 people, with the home filling up in various holiday weekends with kids and grandkids, with mostly grandkids not using toilets as diapers are in full use. We offer this letter in full support of the Freihoffer Griffiths as great neighbors, respectfully submitted. Amy and Dan Feeney. Sandy Bay Onaway LLC is the landowner.
Okay.
As it is a record.
I can take that and put it in the file if you wish.
Okay, any other questions before we move to a resolution?
No.
All right, so I will entertain a resolution approving Harley and Tia Griffiths' application for sanitary sewage disposal variance. Moved by Councilperson Medemir, seconded by Councilperson Ferone.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Inside the resolution, there's brackets and bold for language that we thought you might want to add. How many did you intend? It's on page 2. to have it, that language contingent upon the holding tank system always having an alarm.
It shows in the diagram that has alarm system.
Right now, it says always.
Oh.
You have it in here. If you want it to be included, you should affirmatively say so.
Well, certainly.
That's in accordance with the code, right?
Yeah.
The code requires that they be there.
Okay.
Yeah, and they currently have it. So,
We have it. You have to decide.
all right. So the person making the motion, who
First, Councilman Medevere.
Councilperson Medevere, did you wish to add the bolded amendment, which reads contingent upon the holding tank system always having an alarm for when it reaches 1/2 full and automatically shut off when it becomes full? 1/2 full isn't always the case. It depends on which tank you're talking about. One tank.
They're the same size.
Yeah.
In this case, they happen to be the same size. The initial alarm happens to be 50% because of the two tanks.
The initial alarm, and then you have another alarm at 3/4. So that's town code. It's what currently has. I don't know. I don't see the need for the additional language, but if that person, Tony, making the motion and George making the second.
I may leave it in there, I guess.
I mean, it's existing, so it's not contingent upon, we could just say that, with holding tank system and alarm as it reaches half full. Box of wordsmith over there.
It was contingent upon them always having. That was the key part. But it was totally up to the board. If you think it's already covered by our code, it's up to you.
I said we'll leave it in. That's fine. That's fine.
What did Tony say? You leave it in.
Leave it.
All right, we'll leave it in. George, is that all right with you?
Yes, I'll
Okay,
second the
we'll
amendment.
leave it in. Leaving it in, roll call vote, please.
Okay, Councilman Freer,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
McNulty,
Yes.
Stroud,
Yes.
Medevere.
All right, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of the summer.
All right, that's the only item we have for the Queensbury Board of Health. A motion to move out of the Board of Health, please.
So moved.
All right, made by Councilperson McNulty, seconded by Councilperson Freer. All those in favor of moving out of the Queensbury Board of Health, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. We're out of the Board of Health. All right, now we have 10 resolutions before us tonight, and what I do is there's two parts to the town board meeting. This part deals with just the resolutions. So I will go through and describe the 10 resolutions, and if you have any questions or thoughts you wish to share with the town board, I'll give you the opportunity to do that. But this segment of the town board meeting pertains to just the resolutions. If you're here and you have another question that's town related, I will give you the opportunity after this to address the board on that topic that you wish to address. But this part deals with just the 10 resolutions before us. So Karen, 3.1, please, would you read that to the public?
Certainly, resolution authorizing agreement between Town of Queensbury and Adirondack Theater Festival.
All right, so this is OCTAX. They requested $7,500. It's the Adirondack Theater Festival, or the ATF. And they've been around for about 27 years. They've grown greatly in the past few years, and those members who dine at restaurants, see a show, stay overnight, and many of the area hotels, it's more than doubled its audience. They built a film festival in the last 5 years that attracts sellout crowds. It has, greatly contributed to the cultural enrichment of our area, which not only is good for the residents, but it helps to attract tourism. So they've done an extensive study analyzing the economic impact of attendance to nonprofit arts regions, and the average tourist expenditure for arts in our region on non-ticket items is $36.39. This results in a total tourist expenditure for our 8,000 visitors in the 2019 season of $291,120 in meals, lodging, gifts. So if Warren County residents were included, the expenditure approaches $400,000 And so it goes on to explain all the good things it does, that the ATF also supports many Queensbury businesses. They work hard to promote through social media, print advertising, more than 100 businesses that provide support to their activities, and it goes on for several pages. So they've requested $7,500 of occupancy tax, and this town board will entertain approving that tonight.
Supervisor?
Yes.
On the resolution, it says an amount not to exceed. Should that actually just be $7,500? The contract says to be paid the sum of $7,500.
Yeah.
And then to cross out not exceeding the sum of, or just say for the agreement the sum of. So not exceeding cross
the amount of $7,500.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Okay. Fine. Thank you.
And in the last whereas amount of get rid of not to exceed 7,500. Be consistent.
Okay, thank you. 3.2. Karen, please.
Resolution authorizing establishment of computer service upgrade capital project fund number 240 and engagement of stored technology solutions.
All right, stored technology analyzes our system, keeps us up to date. They've informed us that we have several servers that need to be replaced. They're old and too old. This would replace those servers. The server's cost is $23,233.44, and the professional services to replace them would be $7,125 for a total project cost of $30,358.44. And this is in accordance with New York State contract pricing, contract number PM 20820. 3.3.
Resolution amending town highway inventory regarding Holly Lane.
All right, so we have it listed, and Dave's here to correct me. We have a road listed on his list of Braden Lane North. There isn't any Braden Lane North. It's Holly Lane. It's always been Holly Lane. And investigating this matter, we found that the length. So we're going to replace Braden Lane North, put down Holly Lane. Tony's probably more familiar with this than anybody. And that its legal length is 837 feet. And this is just to clarify and correct the record. And Dave's here if you need anything more. Like I said, Tony's familiar with Holly Lane. 3.4, Karen, please.
Resolution setting public hearing on South Queensbury Volunteer Fire Company Inc.'s proposal to use tax exempt financing for the purchase of a 2022 Ford truck.
Yes, so South Queensbury Volunteer Fire Company and some of the leadership and main members are here tonight. And I want to thank the volunteers for all you do for our greater community. I know you put a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of sacrifice into helping the rest of us, protecting our property, protecting our lives. It takes a lot of training and a whole lot of work. People just don't realize what you guys do, but some of us do, and we do appreciate what you do for us. So they're in the process of renovating their firehouse on Dix Avenue. In the meantime, they have a 1988 Mack open cab. Nobody has open cab. Well, South Queensbury does. Emergency. And so they would like to replace that with a 2022 Pierce pumper truck for an amount not to exceed $353,800. They can afford this through their current budget. They're not asking for additional money. What they're asking for, since this exceeds $50,000 purchase amount, their contract says they have to come to the town board to get that approval. And they also are seeking a chance to accept financing, which would be at 2.99% through Glens Falls National Bank and Trust Company. They also need town board approval for that, and the Glens Falls National wants to see town board approval for that. So we're going to set a public hearing on this matter for August 23rd. It meets all the time requirements between setting the public hearing and holding the public hearing. So if the member of the public wishes to speak to this, you will have the opportunity to do so on August 23rd of this year here in this room at 7 p.m., regular town board meeting. Okay, 3.5.
Resolution authorizing New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, NYSERDA community campaigns for solar and electric plug-in hybrid vehicles. Scoping document.
All right, we're in New York State climate smart community, and we want to earn additional points, additional grant monies. And so there's two. Kathy Bozzoni kind of leads us down this path. She helps us with these environmental things, this specifically. So the town board, as the resolution says, that we're a well-organized community-scale campaigns can, one, effectively encourage adoption of new innovative technologies to generate value and savings for consumers while advancing New York's clean energy goals. Two, promote program opportunities, including community solar, clean heating and cooling, and energy efficiency. Three, provide consumers with increasing access to clean energy. Four, bring together groups of potential customers through widespread outreach and education. So what Kathy's asking the town board to move us along with this climate smart community is to sponsor two campaigns. One is a campaign for solar and the other is for the EV, electric vehicles. What that means is that if anyone signs up for a 10% discount because you're signing up for green energy, thank you guys, we'll get credit. So if you get 10 people, 10 customers, business or otherwise, we'll get credit for that. And Kathy Bozzoni says that we need 10 signups for the green energy sign up or for an electric vehicle or a plug-in hybrid. These would be Queensbury residences and businesses. And so far, Common Energy, Next Amp, and she just got Solstice online too. So if you sign up with them and get 10% electric cost discount from National Grid, we'll get the credit for that. And or if you buy electric car, and 10 people buy electric car in the town of Queensbury, Queensbury residents and Queensbury business, we'll get credit for that. So if we do that, we'll earn $5,000 and an additional 200 points. And once we reach 3,000, which we'll be close to anyways, we'll get an additional 10,000. And then we can put that to other good things. So this is approving the solar community campaign and the electric plug-in hybrid vehicle community campaign. And it really doesn't cost us anything. And we have, for example, Della Honda, Glens Falls Romeo Toyota, Multi Chevrolet, Darby Hyundai, Kia Volkswagen, Warren Ford, North Country Subaru, Leah Nissan, Niemer Ford, and Chrysler Group have all signed up. And Queensbury residents who buy EVs will get the credit for that. We only need 10, then we get the credit. All right, so that's just to approve telling Kathy to go ahead with those campaigns. The town board's behind her. All right, 3.6, Karen, please.
Resolution authorizing engagement of Chief Pete's Lawn Care for mowing of abandoned and neglected property at 44 Sunnyside East.
All right. Well, again, Tony probably drives by this every day. It needs a little grooming. So the initial cost, it will be $150, and thereafter a monthly cost of $75 from Chief Pete's for 44 Sunnyside East. 3.7.
Resolution authorizing advertisement of bids for sale or disposition of obsolete truck and building and grounds.
Okay, Building and Grounds would like to get rid of their 2012 F-350 4x4 truck. And so they would like to put it, it's no longer needed, it's obsolete. And so we're going to give it to Gov Deals and see what we can get for it, if the town board approves it. I should also say on Sunnyside East, we will add that expenditure to those taxes on that residence. They will have to pay us back. 3.8.
Resolution approving audited bills warrant of July 27th, 2021.
Totaling $1,052,521.25. 3.9.
Resolution authorizing lease agreement between town and National Business Equipment for new machine and building enforcement.
Building and Codes needs a new machine, big machine. This isn't your home type. Retail price is usually around $31,571. We're going to lease it for an amount of $11,971. I was told a very good price. It would be $368 per month for a lease amount. And the Building and Codes Enforcement Department needs it ASAP. Those are the 9 resolutions. The 10th one, would you read it to her? Give it to me, Karen.
Resolution acknowledging appointment and establishing salary for Mark Demers as Deputy Highway Superintendent.
Okay, thank you. Mark Demers used to work for us. He was very proactive, energetic, young man. He would like to return to the Highway Department, and Dave Duell, whose decision this is, would like him to return as his deputy for a salary of $65,245. If this town board approves the salary, the appointment's a done deal. Thank you, John. All right, those are the 10 resolutions before the town board tonight. Any discussion from the town board before I open anything to the public?
Sure. Just Dave, is Holly Lane a road by use or a dedicated road?
Road by use. That's one of the 1963 resolution ones. So yes.
Okay.
Resolution 3.2. I was surprised. There was a very nice thing in this resolution, which was that amount you mentioned was reduced to $21,281.60 by StoreTech, and they were an authorized Dell reseller. So we saved some money on that.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention, George.
You usually are really on top of those things.
Yeah, well, I missed that one, so that's why I depend on you. Thank you. Any member of the public wish to speak to any of the 10 resolutions and participants and attendees? We have 2. Ron is from Southview. Mark being. But anybody have any questions on any of the 10 resolutions before the town board tonight? Seeing none, hearing none. Any last minute thoughts? Any roll calls for individual resolutions? All right, then I will entertain a resolution for 3.1 as amended to 3.10. Approval of that. Moved by Councilperson Frome. Seconded by Councilperson Freer. Roll call vote on those 10 resolutions, please, Karen.
Councilman McNulty?
Yes.
Straub?
Yes.
Bedivere?
Yeah.
Freer?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, any correspondence?
Yeah.
Okay. Next is privilege of the floor. If anybody wishes to talk to the town board about any town topic, this is the moment to do so. Seeing none on Zoom, seeing none here. Town board discussions. How's your chip holding up, Joel?
I got a camera.
Okay. Tim?
Couple of things. Harrison, I saw your note on the STR committee, and we're going to meet next.
Yeah, I'm not. I have to.
Okay. one of the things I asked to talk about at the next workshop, and I think can go concurrently with the STR discussion, is the definition of tourist homes. I talked to Craig about that. He says he acknowledges that there is no definition right now. So I just want to put that out that hopefully we can get that on the agenda to talk about the definition of tourist homes at the 30 August workshop. And I got several calls from some constituents about some 55-gallon drums, tanks that were sitting out next to the landfill over by off Luzerne Road. And just want to announce that after I reached out to DEC, and they should be picked up tomorrow. They've only been there for 6 months. So
Did somebody just drop them there?
no, they're soil samples. So I think that somebody from DEC took them from the landfill. They were marked. The call I got was it was contaminated waste, so I went out and looked at it and it wasn't so. But I appreciate the calls, and we were able to get it moved. So okay, that's all I got. Good. George?
I had a couple of things. The first thing was, and I noticed this on Potter Road when I drive back and forth, but people have a tendency to put items they want to get rid of on the side of the road with a sign, and the stuff just sits there forever, and it looks very unsightly. So I'm just mentioning this, that folks, you shouldn't be doing that. Find another way to get rid of your things, but don't put them on the side of the road. It just doesn't look good. The other thing is that, and I might be stealing some of your thunder here, John, but you and I have been meeting with the town's emergency squads. I just wanted to note that we've had a couple of meetings. We have a meeting scheduled this week. So we're starting our process early in regards to getting our contracts and done with the town's EMS squads. And we're hoping some good things to come out of those discussions.
Yep. Good. Anything else, George?
That's it.
Okay, thanks. Harrison?
Well, I was going to comment on EMS too, so I'm glad we're concentrating on that because I think, there's challenges there. And so getting started and trying to move forward with some of the initiatives that we've discussed, I'm all in on. I would be curious to know if, because we talked about climate smart community, and one of the biggest incentives that the state is dangling out there is for us to accept these stretch codes that they briefed us on last workshop. And so I support that. And we need to get some public feedback, and I'm sure there'll be a little bit of pushback from construction folks, but I think the payback is really important. And so hopefully we can move that down the field. And as Tim mentioned, we really haven't had a lot of problems with short-term rentals this summer. To my knowledge, we've had no additional complaints. I talked to Dave Hatton about it a couple times. He gets a lot of calls with people, who are involved to make sure that they're complying with our law. Unfortunately, I had some unscheduled travel for next week. Actually, a sad affair with a funeral to attend, so I'm going to push that meeting back to the third week. So,
I am aware of at least 2 complaints from the fourth ward. So
okay.
So there have been some.
Okay. And I hate to see this hazy, smoky weather that we've inherited from fires in the west, as near as I could tell. We couldn't fly today, even though the visibility, there was no clouds. It was just too hazy. You couldn't even see the horizon. So hopefully we continue to look for ways to deal with, the climate crisis that we're in.
Okay. Thank you, Harrison. Tony?
I have nothing tonight, but thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, yesterday I attended a fundraiser presentation on the history of bathing suits. It actually was a Victorian tea, and they invited my wife and I, because we dress in period clothing, and I take the 1929 up there, and everyone loves that 1929. And so there was a lot of photo opportunities, but I was glad to help. Wheel Walker is a great organization. It's a place for women up on Lake George. And it's a parcel of land that's absolutely gorgeous.
and to be enjoyed by women who need a chance to get away. It was originally set up for those women that were working in the sweatshop type, shirt making and so forth, and give them an opportunity to get away on beautiful Lake George. And so that was very nice. It was yesterday.
Did you and Chris dress?
Yes, and she, I had to help her get dressed with her arm, but she gung ho. She went and did it, and everybody appreciated her effort doing that. And the Saturday night was the Glens Falls Symphony Orchestra. So, director Charles Paltz and executive director Jennifer Brinks. And I want to thank them for organizing the music. And Bill Trombley, he organized the food trucks and some of the other things that were there, like the hand washing stations and the outhouses and stuff. Porta potties, outhouses, all word. And then Mayor Hall and the Glens Falls DPW for setting everything up, mowing the lawn. And so it was a great event. It was a beautiful Saturday night, and the weather was perfect.
How was the attendance, John?
I thought the attendance was very good. It was slow coming in, but then when things got started, and some people even said, I didn't even know about this. I was driving by and I see it, so I parked the car. And so Harrison, your street was probably filled up with people parked.
Not quite. They almost got up there. We walked over, but it'll be curious to see how much they collected because people were just happy to be out and they were donating at the intermission. So that'll be a good measure of how well it was attended. And
so after I got done with the Victorian tea, I came home and my dog said, I want you to take me for a walk. And so we went over to Halfway Brook Trail and, I try and get there at least once a week. And I'm just disturbed that you still see the motorized, not the motorized bicycles. I don't have a problem with that. It's the, ATVs. They're not to be using the lower watershed. My parents let their kids do that when it's prohibited. And so, we may have to go to stronger measures to assure that unauthorized motorized vehicles do not use that watershed. The mayor took a walk on the trail and he was very happy. He said, John, you lived up to everything you told me you were going to do. You did it. I always do. But that was reassuring that he was happy. And people with their dogs, two things. One is we have stations there where we provide the bag. Take care of your dog. Don't leave it for somebody to walk in. And the dogs have to be leashed. So, this one lady was telling me, because they recognize me, and so they want to make sure if something's wrong, I know about it. And she said, and these two dogs came attacking me and my dog. And I told the lady, you need to have those leashed. That's what the law says. Oh, they're good dogs. And she says, no, they're not. It scared the bejesus out of me. That's not right. Yeah, they might be big dogs. They didn't take my arm. But they have no right to threaten people like that. So, again, if I make that information public, maybe little by little will help. We went to the Conklin Center, is expanding, and they had a groundbreaking ceremony, and it was wonderful. And the board of directors at Glen, at Highland Meadows, and the leadership there are doing a wonderful job. And it was a very nice groundbreaking at the Glen at Highland Meadows. Joan Grishcott, I think I did give thoughts for her. And her and Walter started the Bloom Festival, and that's not the only thing they did for our greater community, so I wanted to mention it again. I went to the Warren County Water Quality Strategy Committee Day out, and we went to Westbrook and we saw the conservation initiatives that was taken there. And we took a look and studied the aquatic habitat and how it's coming back in Westbrook. We took a look at the porous concrete sidewalks on Schuyler Street. See, they have sidewalks already, but they're replacing some of them in problem areas where they're low with porous sidewalks. And you can sit there and pour a glass of water and it just disappears. It works. It doesn't pond. Anyhow, I want to thank the Warren County Soil and Water Conservation District and Jim Liebram for all they do for our community in terms of environmentally good things. We are going to be getting an update on the Jenkins-Ville area soon. And George, you're talking about me you're stealing my thunder. I'm going to steal George's. I know George is an avid reader of the Albany Business Review, and so am I. But George is always bringing things to my attention that are always interesting, and I want to thank you, George, for doing that. But you missed this one. Congratulations to Ed Moore. Now, Ed Moore is a local businessman, Queensbury Hotel, and the Home to Suites. No, that's the Exit 18. Fairmont. Thank you. And he just and with the Civic Center and everything else, he's involved with everything in our community to make things happen. So I just want to say thank you, Ed, and I'm glad that even the Albany papers recognize your efforts. And that's it for me. Anything else for the good of the order?
There was a note about kind of Leaf City kind of thing going on tomorrow at Gurney Lane at noon that you couldn't make. Is anybody else planning on going?
No, he has presented before the board before. I don't know if you were on board then.
I kind of reached out to him when I first came on, and I'm not available tomorrow, but if no one can attend, I'll follow up with him. I'm not sure if he's got more information.
Yeah, Tree City. It's a follow up or follow on to Tree City. It's kind of wishy-washy to me, but I can go if nobody else.
No, and I'm just thinking of Main Street, like the city of Glens Falls, is the kind of thing that's set up for that. And we don't have that Main Street kind of thing. So you look at Route 9 or Quaker Road, what kind of tree inventory do we have? What would we wish to have? I mean, those kind of things. And if they're county roads, I mean, in the city, everything's the city. In Queensbury, please go. But what they're doing is a wonderful thing. I'm just not sure how it would apply to Queensbury.
Now sustainable.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's all wonderful things, but
I got one alibi. You mentioned dog stations. I want to thank the town rec department. We put in on the town portion of Feeder Canal. We now got a dog station up there. One of the residents asked for it, and I talked to Steve, and we got one. So I appreciate it. Shout out to the Parks and Rec for being able to put that up.
Now they'll just use it. And you know what? It's just one or two people. I don't know why they don't use them or bring their own. I bring my own. I don't get it. They'll let their dog go sit right there and then move on. Well, you're going to do that. People are kids and everybody else are going to be walking through that. Just take care of your own dog's messes. All right. Well, thanks for bringing that up again.
To get you started. Sorry about
that. Okay. Anything else for the good of the order? Board? All right. I want to thank the public and Will Barlow and Jeff C. Jackson, Look TV, Town Council Bob Hafner, Deputy Town Clerk Karen O'Brien, and everybody. Thank you for coming. Our next regular town board meeting is August 9th. So until then, I wish you all well and entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion made by Tim McNulty, seconded by Councilperson Brown. All those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. The following program is underwritten by the generous support of Associates of Glens Falls and Loomis and Lipan Insurance. Since 1852, they have been assisting both businesses and individuals across the country secure the most comprehensive insurance products available. Associates of Glens Falls is proud to partner with Central Insurance Companies. Public affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's Restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable, home-like setting where everyone is welcome. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Most cybersecurity firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.